Hi, welcome back to the Big B and Little T channel. I'm Tina, and today we're going to make another recipe. We're going to make Tex Mex Hash Browns. I really love potatoes, and hash browns are yummy for breakfast, but I also like to have breakfast at dinner time, so we eat them for dinner sometimes too. They're just good anytime, anything with potatoes, I believe. So we're going to use some ingredients that will remind you just some of those kind of Mexican flavors that you may be used to if you eat a lot of Mexican food. And let's get started. The first thing we need is a half a cup of onion. I'm going to use a red onion, but you could use a white or yellow, whichever onion you want to use. I just sharpened this knife, but it doesn't look like it, does it? I'm going to use this serrated knife. We'll get half a cup of onion chopped up. I'm going to turn my heat on to medium. And I'm just going to toss those onions in and let them get to cooking. I'm not adding any oil or anything to the pan. It's just going to be the onions. And this skillet was my mom's. It's a Cuisinart non-stick. It's been around for a while, and sometimes it's not the best at non-stick. So if we need to, we might add a little splash of water, or if I had some broth, we could do that too. But we're not going to add any oil to it, just to save on extra calories that we don't need. The recipe calls for 1 bell pepper, and I've got a gigantic red bell pepper and a green bell pepper. I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to use half of the red and half of the green, because I really think the colors red and green will be pretty in the hash browns. So that's an option. You could use a yellow one or an orange pepper if you want. These have been washed. I'm just going to cut down the middle here and just peel it back. Set this to the side and just take out that inner membrane and throw it in the trash down below. I'm going to do the same thing with the green pepper. Just cut it in half. Set the unused portion aside, and then just take out this middle section here. And then we'll get those chopped up. Okay, let's give our onions a little stir. They're starting to soften just a little bit, not too much. In the meantime, while they're still softening, we're going to take this jalapeno pepper, which you can see is quite large. I'm going to use just half of it, and of course it's optional. We like our food spicy, but I'm only going to use half because it is quite gigantic. Set the unused portion aside, and then we want to take out the seeds and the membrane out, because that's what really gives it the spice. So I like to use my serrated knife and just kind of go around the edge of the membrane on either side, and then just pop it into the trash. You'll see it comes pretty clean, and shake out any of those seeds. And then we'll get that minced up kind of small. Anytime you handle a hot pepper, you just want to make sure that you keep your hands away from your eyes, your mouth, face, and rinse them when you're done chopping. Or wear gloves. I'm going to give just a little splash of water. They're softening up nicely and starting to brown a little. While that evaporates, I'm going to rinse my hands to get the hot pepper. Okay, these are cooking up nicely. Starting to smell really good. And then we're going to add our peppers. Half of a green bell pepper and half of a red bell pepper. Half of a large jalapeno that's been seeded. If you want something spicy, you don't have to put that in there. If you don't. And any of these non-starchy vegetables are a great thing to add to potatoes. They help bring down the calorie density of the dish overall. Potatoes have been shown to be one of the most satisfying starches and foods that you can eat, so they fill you up, and they're a little more dense in calories than non-starchy vegetables, but the combination of that just does a good job of filling you up and giving you extra nutrients from all those colorful vegetables that you're eating. So we're going to let those cook down for just a minute, and we're going to talk about spices. Spices are going to be very similar to what you might have in taco meat. We're going to have garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, cumin, coriander, Mexican oregano, and optional cayenne pepper. All those spices will go together. If you don't have the coriander, you can just leave it out, or the Mexican oregano, either one. While there's still a little bit of moisture in here, I've pre-measured the spices in my little dish, and I'm just going to pour those in and stir them around. Get them nicely coated. Let it cook for a minute or two to get the vegetables nice and coated with the spices, and a few onions went overboard. Oops. I'm going to add just a teeny splash more water. Like I said, this non-stick skillet has been through a lot of dishes that it's cooked, so it's not always the best at non-sticking. We'll see later with the potatoes how it fares. Okay, while those cook, I'll turn my heat down just a little bit. We're going to add the hash browns next. Now the hash browns that I have are a brand called Mr. Dell's. And it's just, if you look on the back, it's just potatoes. Ingredients, potatoes. There's nothing added. No salt, no sugar, no oil. The recipe calls for 6 cups. And when I measured out what I had left in my bag, I was like, oops, only 4 cups. And we're right in the middle of a snowstorm here, and I'm not going out to the store to get anything. So what I'm going to do is set these aside, and I have 2 red potatoes here. I'm just going to add these freshly grated potatoes to the frozen potatoes, and it's going to work out. We're going to make it work. So I've already washed them off, and I'm just going to grate them here with my hand grater. If you had a food processor, you could do that as well. I find that this is a good workout for your arms, especially for your triceps. We're going to add these potatoes and the one that I just shredded along with it. And we're going to see if that one potato was enough. Potatoes like this will actually cook down quite a bit. So our 6 cups will end up probably being more like 4. I think I'm going to add this potato. Here we go. Okay. Okay, now they've got to cook, and this comes, but the cooking comes the part that we need to be really patient with, because without the oil, we want to make sure they don't stick, for one thing, but we also don't want to turn them too soon so they don't get brown on the bottom. So I'm going to have to use my utmost patience here to not turn them too soon. We're just going to let them cook for 3 to 4 minutes probably, and let them get a little brown on the bottom. Then we're going to flip them over. So here I go to exercise my patience. Okay, I've been about as patient as I can be. These have gone for about 4 minutes on medium heat, and I took a little peek and it looks like they're about ready to turn over. So what I usually do is I like to divide the pan in half with my spatula, and then divide it in half again. So I've got 4, looks like wedges of pie, potato pie. Okay, so you can see where I've made sections. And I'm going to do my best to get my spatula underneath each section and flip it as a whole. It won't be perfect, never is, but we'll do our best. You can see some of it's brown, some of it's not exactly turned. It never turns exactly as a whole like you would want in a perfect world. But they're going to still taste just fine. Now the last thing we have to add is a can of Rotel. This Rotel has the cilantro and lime flavoring. They have all different kinds. They have mild, they have original, they have very hot, and then they have this one that's spiced with lime and cilantro called Mexican style. It seems appropriate. And I've drained it in my drainer over the sink, and I'm just going to pour it on the top here. And we're going to spread it around the top like this. Once again, we're adding some more low calorie dense vegetables, mostly tomatoes and some chilies in there, to our starch, which is the hash browns. And now we get to be patient again while it cooks down. I'm going to give it about 4 or 5 minutes like I did last time. And although it may not brown very much because it doesn't have the oil in it that will cause it to brown, it's still going to be fully cooked and it's going to be delicious. So here we go for a round of patience, round 2. Okay, we're back from patience round 2, and they've been cooking for about 5 more minutes in the skillet and have gotten more brown on the bottom. You could flip this section again and see some nice browning occurring there. And the pan is sticking. I can tell you from experience, this pan does stick with hash browns. I'll end up at the end with my spatula, just scrape it kind of across, and it'll get those nice little darkened bits off. I'm going to go ahead and turn these off, and if I were waiting for the rest of my meal, I would set them on the back burner and put the lid on them just to hold the heat in. And different ways that I would serve this, I might make a tofu scramble and serve these on the side, perhaps with some biscuits, English muffins, something like that. Or if I'm making a big bowl, I might get a bowl full of greens and put the hash browns on one side of it and some seasoned black beans or other kind of beans on the other side. That would make a hearty bowl like that. I would just eat them also by themselves because I'm such a potato person. And I would put some kind of topping on it, maybe some Cholula hot sauce, maybe ketchup, which give them a little bit of sweetness. And I would let each person at the table salt and pepper them themselves because we haven't added any salt. It does have a peppery taste from the jalapeno and a little bit of cayenne pepper that I put in. But you can eat them however you like. I sure hope you try this recipe. It's very hearty and it's perfect for a winter's day like we have today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.